Welcome to this explainer. We usually think of advanced mathematics and deep existential human philosophy as two completely separate, almost fundamentally opposed worlds. Think about it. Math is rigid, right? It's objective, it's calculated, it's all about cold, hard facts. Philosophy, on the other hand, is subjective, it's messy, it's deeply personal, and it's constantly up for debate. But I recently came across a highly abstract mathematical proof that completely shatters that divide. We are going to look at formal, logical, computer-grade code that actually attempts to prove something incredibly profound about the human experience. We're using the rigorous, unforgiving laws of math to fundamentally redefine how we view the nature of existence itself. And honestly, untangling this code for the first time completely shifted my perspective on what it means to be alive.
Just think about that question for a second. Human beings spend pretty much their entire lives chasing absolute certainty. We want to know all the answers. We strive to eliminate our ignorance, to achieve this state of total, objective understanding of the world around us. We go to school, we read books, we constantly search for the ultimate truth. We naturally imagine that an all-knowing, omniscient state, being able to see and understand literally everything, would be the ultimate crowning achievement of the mind. But what if that is a massive, structural illusion? What if mathematics could definitively, rigorously prove that knowing absolutely everything is, structurally speaking, a total dead end? What if, in the grand scheme of things, omniscience is actually way worse than knowing nothing at all?
Okay, let's dive into this. What we are looking at here is the actual source material we are analyzing today. This is a formalization written in Lean. Now, if you aren't familiar, Lean is a programming language and a theorem prover used by hardcore mathematicians to verify insanely complex logic. The file itself is literally named consciousness versus objectivity.lean. This isn't just theory. This is the literal blueprint for a philosophical math battle. The author of this code is using strict computational logic to model what it means to actually possess knowledge. They aren't just writing flowery poetry about the mind. They're declaring rigid variables, defining strict functions, and writing verifiable mathematical proofs to test the validity of the messy human experience versus the concept of a flawless, godlike, all-knowing objectivity. To understand exactly how this code models the mind, we first have to define our core variable, which the code calls the knowledge trajectory. In the raw code, this is defined as a mapping from natural numbers to natural numbers, written as nat arrow net. But let's break down what that actually means in the context of your everyday human life. Imagine a graph. The horizontal line is time, moving forward in discrete ticks, day 1, day 2, day 3, stretching all the way out into your future. The vertical line represents how much knowledge an entity actually possesses at any given one of those moments. So a knowledge trajectory is simply the line that tracks what a mind knows as time moves forward. It's the mathematical story of a consciousness over time. It tracks every single realization, every tiny fact you've ever learned, and every mental boundary you've ever crossed. And this brilliantly illustrates the next absolute crucial concept the code defines, which is called vitality. In strict mathematical terms, vitality is the derivative of the knowledge trajectory. It is calculated as the knowledge you have at time t plus 1 minus the knowledge you had at time t. Okay, but what does that mean in plain English? It's the gap. It's the difference between what you knew yesterday and what you know today. Vitality isn't just some static, boring number sitting on a page. It is the mathematical heartbeat of discovery. Think about it. If you learn something new today, your vitality is positive. It fundamentally measures the experience of change, the thrill of that aha moment when something finally clicks, and the forward momentum of your own personal narrative. It captures the very essence of what it feels like to be alive, awake, and learning.
Now we set up the first combatant in our mathematical dichotomy, the objective trajectory. This represents absolute, flawless omniscience. The code defines a specific variable, m, which stands for maximum knowledge. To be an objectively perfect entity means you start your existence at m and you stay at m forever. Your knowledge trajectory is just a flat, horizontal line at the very, very top of the graph. You instantly and permanently possess all facts, all truths, and all understanding across all possible dimensions of reality. There are no mysteries left. From the outside looking in, this sounds like the ultimate, final goal of the universe, doesn't it? It sounds like absolute perfection.
But the author of the code leaves this incredibly poignant, almost haunting comment right in the source file. It reads, "Perfect flat knowledge implies zero vitality." I want you to really think about the sheer existential tragedy hidden in those words. If your knowledge line is perfectly flat at the absolute ceiling of maximum understanding, then tomorrow's knowledge will always be exactly 100% identical to today's knowledge.
The derivative, the actual change in your state, is absolutely nothing, zero. This isn't an achievement, it's a heat death. The code formally labels this the heat death of the objective trajectory. It mathematically suggests that to arrive at the end of all mysteries, to know every single thing there is to know, is actually a deeply, profoundly tragic state of existence.
If we map this out as time relentlessly moves forward, from t equals 1 to 2 to 3 and so on, the objective entity's knowledge level remains completely locked at m. Because m minus m is always 0, the vitality of this entity becomes just an endless, stretching string of zeros. There is absolutely no discovery, there is no surprise, there is no narrative progress to be made whatsoever. When you already possess the answers to all possible questions that could ever be asked, there are simply no questions left to drive your existence forward. Time passes, the days tick on, the universe turns, but the inner experience of this omniscient mind is utterly stagnant. The math clearly dictates that nothing new can ever happen to a mind trapped in this state. So the crucial point is this massive zero. This isn't just an empty digit on a page or a placeholder in an equation. Mathematically, it represents the complete and total absence of subjective experience. The formal logic dictates that without a delta, without a measurable difference between state A and state B, there is no action, there is no life. Omniscience, the state of knowing absolutely everything, literally equates to experiencing absolute nothingness. The supreme all-knowing mind, despite holding every single secret of the cosmos in its grasp, is essentially trapped in a paralyzed state of perfection. It is a mind with literally nowhere left to go.
Which brings us directly to the first formal proof written into the code. Theorem 1. The heat death of objectivity. The formal logic proves undeniably, without a shadow of a doubt, that if an entity possesses pure objectivity, its vitality is permanently, eternally zero. It concludes that omniscience is just a static block. You fundamentally cannot discover what you already know. Therefore, an objective entity experiences nothing at all. It's a profound paradigm shift, really. The highest possible state of knowledge, the ultimate idealized goal of human inquiry, is mathematically verified as a lifeless, frozen block of amber.
Let's move to and see how this builds our second combatant, the conscious trajectory. Now this is us. This is the messy, beautifully flawed, incredibly frustrating human experience. The code defines consciousness mathematically, not by the vast amount of facts it knows, but rather by what it lacks. A conscious entity starts its journey in the void. Its initial knowledge, represented by the letter O, is strictly mathematically less than m. We don't know everything. But the defining, magical feature of consciousness is that its vitality is greater than zero. It is actively traversing that void. It is incomplete, it is ignorant, and it is terribly flawed. But it is constantly moving forward and making measurable, undeniable progress day by day. There is a fascinating, almost poetic comment hidden deep in the syntax of the source code here. The author links this conscious start in the dark, this strictly mathematical state of absolute ignorance, to the ancient Greek philosophy of Epicurus. Epicurus taught something called the tetrapharmakos, which was essentially a four-part remedy designed to cure human anxiety and the sheer terror of existence. The code is actively suggesting that mathematically recognizing our own ignorance isn't a weakness we should be ashamed of. It's deeply therapeutic. Starting in the dark, far, far below maximum knowledge, is the exact necessary condition that guarantees we get to experience the light of discovery later on. It is a mathematical refusal to be terrified of the unknown and instead embracing the journey of learning. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is when we take these two massive concepts and put them side by side, the contrast is just incredibly stark. On one side, we have objectivity, the omniscient, all-knowing static block. Its vitality is completely flatlined at zero. It is dead perfection, fundamentally incapable of growth or surprise. On the other side, we have consciousness, a state defined entirely by ignorance, fueled by relentless progress, and operating on a dynamic upward trajectory. Its vitality is consistently greater than zero. It is the vibrant, beating, messy heart of learning and curiosity. The code sets these two up not as equals existing in a vacuum, but to establish a definitive, mathematically sound hierarchy of existence itself. And here is the grand finale of the explainer. Theorem 2. The superiority of consciousness. The code literally proves, through rigorous, verifiable formal logic, that the vitality of a conscious entity is strictly greater than the vitality of an objective entity at all points in time. Let that sink in. Because consciousness is the only state that supports a non-zero derivative of experience, it is mathematically, undeniably, the superior state of being. The proof shows that a mind in motion will always, always triumph over a mind at rest, regardless of how much that resting mind actually knows.
The math here is completely irrefutable, and we can walk through it in 3 simple, beautiful steps. Step 1. Theorem 1 already proved that objective vitality is permanently locked at exactly 0. Step 2. By its very definition, conscious vitality is actively traversing the void, making its derivative strictly positive, meaning it is always strictly greater than 0. Step 3. Because any positive number, no matter how small, is always greater than 0, consciousness is strictly greater than objectivity. The struggle of learning, the sometimes painful but ultimately rewarding process of overcoming our own limitations, mathematically defeats the stagnation of knowing everything. Your capacity to learn is fundamentally, mathematically more valuable than the knowledge itself.
The author ends the code with a note referencing the philosopher Schopenhauer and the horizon fallacy. This is the idea that every person takes the limits of their own field of vision for the limits of the entire world. We usually see this as a huge flaw, right? A cognitive sandbox that keeps us trapped in our own tiny, limited perspectives. But based on the rigorous math we've explored today, that limited horizon is exactly the mechanism that allows us to move forward. The boundary of your ignorance is literally the starting line for your vitality. So I want to leave you with this thought: if your lack of knowledge is the very engine that gives your life forward momentum and grants you mathematical superiority over a godlike stillness, will you ever look at your own ignorance the same way again? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible intersection of code, math, and philosophy with me today. Keep asking questions, keep discovering, and keep expanding your trajectory.